In the heart of north central Indiana, from the factories and farms to the families with loved ones stationed at Grissom, there's a question echoing down main streets and diner booths alike. Who speaks for our future? Today, we start hearing directly from one voice trying to answer that call in House District 23. Across Logansport, Peru, Mexico, and the communities around Grissom Air Base, voters are wrestling with rising costs, healthcare access, economic opportunity, and education. Tonight, we sit down and dig deep into what leadership looks like for the next decade. Today's guest is Austin Meives, a Democratic candidate running to represent Indiana's 23rd State House District. He's stepping into a race in a district that spans rural towns, small cities, critical defense infrastructure, and diverse economic realities. Austin joins us to talk about his vision for jobs, healthcare, schools, and what he believes Indiana's future should look like for everyday families, including those in District 23. We'll explore both the specific challenges these communities face and the broader values voters want their next state representative to embody. Welcome to the show, Austin.
Thanks for having me, Derek.
It is always a pleasure to have a first-time candidate on. So let's get this going. District 23 includes Logansport, Peru, Mexico, and Grissom Joint Air Reserve Base, each with very different needs. What do you see as the shared challenges that unite the district? And where do you think one-size-fits-all policy has failed these communities?
So, District 23 has 6 main arteries. We got US 31, US 24, and US 35. We got the Wabash and Eel rivers that cut through both Miami and Cass County. So, what affects one upriver eventually ends up downstream and affects the rest of the state. While Grissom has seen some growth in recent years, Peru has lost jobs and shuttered factories. Our current leaders believe cutting taxes will boost the economy, but it's just led to more closed factories when the cuts are gone. We need to change how we invest in our local economy because one size fits all doesn't work for everyone, and it often leaves the poorest in our communities behind.
Many residents feel economic development in Indiana favors metro areas over rural towns. What specific tools would you push for at the State House to bring sustainable jobs and small business growth to places like Logansport and Peru, rather than short-term incentives for out-of-state corporations?
So, as I mentioned in the last answer, if the only reason that companies are coming to our small towns is because of tax cuts, whether they be land use abatements or sales tax cuts in the form of what has been recently passed for data centers, where they don't pay sales tax on their utility costs, the equipment they buy. We still pay that sales tax, but they get the massive cuts. But how does that help us? What we need to do is legalize cannabis in this state. We're letting $1.6 billion go up to Michigan and to Illinois, and we're just letting that money sit on the table. Farmers could use that crop as an additional resource and a tool that they could grow. And it's a perpetual customer base.
Cass and Miami counties struggle with provider shortages, hospital sustainability, and mental health access. What role should the state play in stabilizing rural healthcare? And where do you draw the line between market forces and public responsibility?
My mom was a nurse and she worked here at Duke's down in Howard at Howard Community, and she ended up at IU North. She went from hospital to hospital because the money wasn't at the smaller hospitals. Of course, the bigger up you go, the more money that they have to pay you. In the year 2000 or 2005, Logansport State Hospital was reduced in size. It used to be a massive facility, and it used to be the largest mental health facility in the state. They went from 2,000 patients to around 500 or so. The land was sold off. They used to grow their own food, take care of animals. Granted, Old Longcliff doesn't have the best reputation because we didn't have antipsychotics until 1955, but they saw some care. Now we just throw those people out on the streets and then jail them for trying to survive. We need state programs to invest in our hospitals and our mental health institutions, because having spent some time in Fort County, that is a prohibitive cost if you are an inpatient. And it gets more expensive if you were an outpatient.
From K-12 schools to vocational training, workforce readiness is a major concern. How would you balance funding traditional public schools while expanding career and technical education that actually aligns with local employers in District 23?
So we need to realize that technical education can start as early as sixth and seventh grade. While I was homeschooled after seventh grade, I was bullied in school, and my parents did not want to find me at the end of a rope. I do remember woodshop class and home ec class in sixth grade. While modern industrial spaces don't hold the value of woodworking and baking skills, we need to, unless you're doing construction, we need to look at robotics and automation classes. Development of skills in bookkeeping, IT, machine human interface, and as much as I hate AI learning skills, we need to invest in our future workforce and make sure that all Hoosiers stay relevant in today's economy.
Grissom is both an economic anchor and strategic military asset. What responsibilities does the state have to support Grissom's long term viability? And how would you advocate for veterans and military families who live in this district?
So, Grissom is an anchor in the sense that it can keep you steady, but it can also weigh you down. There's been a lot of jurisdiction disputes between county and federal over responsibility of what's left at the base. Since it's been decommissioned from active to reserve, a lot of that land has become public land. A lot of those roads out there are now county roads. There's a jurisdiction dispute over who's responsible for plowing, road maintenance, and if you don't have good roads out there, people aren't going to build out there. Now, while we have seen some growth, we have to keep in mind that when the base was pulled from active status and put to reserve, the whole area suffered. I feel the state should support growth in the area, but not at the expense of surrounding areas. As for how we support our veterans, our military families, we owe a duty to make sure that whatever happens on the base, that we take their health and well-being as seriously as any one of ours. We have to make sure that their homes out on the base meet the same standards and are to code. Make sure that water doesn't come from contaminated sources.
Agriculture remains central to the district's identity, but farmers face consolidation, rising costs, and environmental pressures. How do you protect family farms while also addressing water quality, land stewardship, and long term sustainability?
So, a bulk of the farmland in the area is used to grow corn. Of course, there's more than corn in Indiana. We got soy and wheat. And in an era of economic and environmental instability, the state needs to work with farmers to protect from soil erosion and preventing fertilizer runoff into our waterways. Today's farmers are pressed by high interest loans, expensive equipment, and soaring operation costs. As I've said before, legalization, while not a silver bullet, can reinvigorate rural Indiana and would add another tool for farmers to access and a perpetual customer base. Add programs for greenhouses and grants for water reduction tools. We can get them to move away from wasteful aerial systems that just spray the air.
Infrastructure debates often stop at roads and bridges. What investment should Indiana be making in broadband, water systems, and utilities to ensure rural towns aren't permanently left behind?
So, at least in Peru, our water and power lines aren't much different than when they were first constructed 100 years ago. They need updated. While our storm drains have been updated to prevent fines on our local municipal government, the power lines are, it's still old infrastructure. And infrastructure is expensive. Peru Municipal and Logansport Municipal utilities are struggling between high costs to run and update while being conscious of the people actually paying for the utility services. Meanwhile, corporate utilities like Duke Energy and NIPSCO produce record profits and they jack up rates. That money comes from you and me. We also need to acknowledge that infrastructure also encompasses hospitals and schools, and they are key to keeping a functioning society.
Many towns in District 23 face aging housing stock and limited rental options. What state level policies would you support to expand affordable safe housing without pricing long term residents out of their own communities?
So I walk my neighborhood with my dog. We can walk from East Peru to West Peru in about an hour. I've got long legs and I've been told I walk fast. Um, I can count at least 20 homes that are abandoned in that hour. whether they are just empty and waiting to be torn down or just being used as a shed. What we need is a vacant home tax on these empty homes that aren't being up for sale. And if they are up for sale and they sit on the market for over a year, they need to be applied to a vacant home tax. If you are just holding on to the property when someone could live there and it's a livable building, why are you holding on to that? Well, what's the purpose? If we have a vacant home tax after, say, 180 consecutive days of vacancy, it becomes unprofitable to just hold that building. Get someone in there and the tax goes away. Get someone in there at a fair rate. And yeah, we also need to modify building codes to prefer dense mixed use zoning. While I understand we live in a car-centric society, I also understand that prior to 100 years ago, we built dense, cheap homes, and we can do that again.
Voters frequently say they feel ignored once elections are over. How would you stay meaningfully accountable to constituents across multiple counties? And how would you handle pressure from party leadership when it conflicts with what the district needs?
I am a representative of the people first and foremost. Whether or not I'm elected, I still plan on being involved. Unlike the current incumbent, I plan on holding regular town halls prior to upcoming legislative sessions. That way, voters know where I stand on the issues, and so I can hear their concerns, valid or not. If they have an invalid concern, I want to bring their attention to why whatever legislative piece doesn't affect what they're talking about. People feel unlistened to because they aren't listened to. They get together and vote every 2 to 4 years, and nothing changes. That's why the non-voter won the election last time. 1/3 of the populace said, nah. I want to give them a change that they can support.
As a Democrat running in a politically mixed district, you'll need to earn trust from voters who may not agree on everything with you. What is one issue where you're willing to break with political expectations, either from your party or from tradition, because it's the right thing for your district?
So I am a pro Second Amendment man. While we need laws in place to keep guns out of the hands of criminals and the mentally unstable, I fully support the right to possess and use firearms. It's baked into our Constitution. I've got plenty of friends who are hunters, whether they hunt with a rifle or a bow or a shotgun. I'm pro Second Amendment. Like, if you can afford the ammo and are willing to pay a tax on an automatic, I don't really care if you have an automatic. Just get mentally checked out every once in a while if you have an automatic.
Hi, I'm Dr. Cindy Worth, and I'm running for Indiana's 6th Congressional District. I'm a lifelong Hoosier. I grew up here in Columbus. I went to school here, met my husband here, raised my family here. I've served my community as a public school teacher for more than a decade, and ultimately, it was that experience that motivated me to run for public office. Any good teacher knows that the struggles of a working-class family will affect a child in the classroom. That's how topics like access to education, affordable housing, healthcare, fair wages, and a safe environment became the platform on which I built my campaign. I pursued and completed a congressional fellowship which allowed me to study bipartisan policy writing alongside lawmakers in Washington, D.C. I've been engaging voters in the 6th District since 2022, and I've had the pleasure of getting to know so many incredible people. It will be an honor to soon be your voice in Washington because you are worth every moment of this fight. I'm Cindy Worth, and I approve this message.
All right, Austin, we've covered the big picture. Now it's time to pick up the cards. This is our hold 'em or fold 'em round. I'm going to read you a statement. If you agree, you hold 'em. If you don't, you fold 'em. No speeches, no hedging. If you want to explain, you get one sentence after your answer. Are you ready? Rural hospitals and clinics should receive direct state support when the market fails to keep them open.
Hold 'em.
Indiana lawmakers should stop preempting local governments from solving local problems.
Hold 'em.
Reproductive health care decisions should be made by patients and doctors, not politicians.
Hold 'em.
Family farms deserve more protection than large agribusiness corporations.
Hold 'em.
If party leadership is wrong for District 23, a representative should vote against their own party.
Hold 'em.
Austin, I want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with us today, not just for the interview, but for making the decision to run in the first place. Putting your name on the ballot isn't easy. It means inviting scrutiny, criticism, and long days on the road talking to voters who don't always agree with you. But it also means believing that your community deserves a voice and that Indiana's future is worth showing up for. House District 23, Logansport, Peru, Mexico, and the families connected to Grissom needs leaders who are willing to listen, to learn, and to stand up even when it's uncomfortable. Whether people agree with you on every issue or not, stepping forward is how democracy works, and that matters. So thank you for being here. Thank you for answering the tough questions, and thank you for being willing to serve. And to our viewers, stay engaged, learn the candidates, ask the hard questions, and never stop demanding better from the people who want to represent you. So stay informed, ask questions, and as always, hold them accountable.